The first round of the 2025 NHL Draft kicks off tonight. And on today's show, we're going to tell you what we expect Barry Trotz and the Nashville Predators to do.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. Happy draft day, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this big draft day episode, shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in to talk Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio, and friends, I got a couple partners in crime.
You do. I am Emma Lingan, and I am an NHL host and reporter for the Hockey News. And of course, at the cold open there, if you're watching on YouTube, was upper management of the Locked On Predators podcast, Miss Minka, who is having to take a very active role in her job lately because Lord knows you and I need a lot of reining in these days.
So, some supervision is best. Supervision is best. Yes. Now, today we're gonna do the things, Emma. We are going to increase our anxiety. We're going to make some predictions about the 5th overall pick. We're also going to talk about some of those first round picks towards the end of tonight that the Predators are going to be making. We're going to share with you our final thoughts on the draft. And then we're going to see what Barry Trotz does tonight. Before we dive into our discussion, we do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Emma, we have been talking draft for weeks here. We are ready for tonight, but I just want to pivot at the very start because I think this is a very timely Locked On Predators topic that I just want to touch on, and we'll dive deeper into this when it becomes a reality. But I saw that the NHL and NHLPA are talking about an 84 game season. And Emma, I just want to know, what is the math for us? Because we just went through an 82 game season that felt like 84 years. So I'm just curious what the math is going to be. What is an 84 game season going to feel like us here at Locked On Predators? Because friends, you can only age like presidents so many times before you become the crypt keeper.
We might be headed for crypt keeper status here at this point. Although I will say, on a serious note, I am all for the 84 game season because it means a shorter preseason, because the preseason is entirely too long. 6 games, come on. Yeah. No one needs that, especially the early games. Like it's not even NHL players who are playing. So I don't know. I'm okay with the 84 game season for that reason, but I agree with you. I mean, if it goes like this one just did, it's going to be like 184 years. I don't even know. Those two could really do
damage. Yeah. We're going to need the Dick LeBeau skincare. If Dick LeBeau never aged, that's what we're going to need if we go to an 84 game season that felt like this past 82 game season.
I'm going to need to up my Botox dosage each time, I think, because I don't know if we can do that again.
Yeah, I agree with you on the preseason. As my grandma Ruth used to say, poop or get off the pot. Like, let's play hockey or let's not. Let's go. Yeah. So, yeah. But I thought about that as soon as that came out. I thought, I don't know what the specific equation is for how this is going to age Emma and I, but we'll figure it out.
You know better than to ask us about math, though. I mean,
that's right. That's not. Maybe another day we'll figure it out. All right, we're going to pivot to the draft because that is what we are here for today. The upside of an 84-year-long season is that sometimes you end up with a really high draft pick, and it's finally paying off. We are cashing in the pain for a player tonight, friends, in the first round. Nashville Predators, of course, have the 5th overall pick. Let's review real quick the picks that Nashville has in the draft in its entirety. In round 1, which takes place tonight, of course, they have that 5th overall pick. They have the 23rd pick. That is, oh man, that's from the Tanner Janota Tampa Bay Hall. Love that. They also have the 26th pick tonight, and that is from the Yaroslav Askarov deal. Nailed it the first time. Round 2, pick number 35, and then they have pick 55. That is from trading Ryan McDonough back to Tampa Bay. That's the givebacks. They say there's no takebacks, but apparently in Tampa Bay there are. Round 3, they have pick number 67. Round 4, they got a whole lot of nothing happening in round 4. So that's your snack and bathroom break on Saturday, friends. That was traded to New Jersey for Eric. Holla. Round 5, pick number 131. Round 6, 163. And then 182. That is the pick that they got for the brief whisper of a time that we saw Scott Wedgwood, and then we traded him for Eustace Onanen. I know it seems like decades ago. And then we don't have any picks in round 7. So Nashville will be wrapping it up. Unless they make some sort of a 7th round deal, wrapping it up a little bit early. But Emma, we've talked a lot about the 5th overall pick. You and I are going to put our money where our mouth is a little bit later in this episode, and then like go lick a Xanax because we hate doing that. But picks 23 and 26 in the first round. What's Nashville going to do with those? What's your best guess?
I think I hate this. I think they're gonna get a goalie.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're gonna get a goalie. Because it's late enough in the first round. Now they might wait on the goalie. I'm not like totally full sending on that prediction because I don't know. But I also think they're gonna get a defenseman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we'll talk about what we think they're gonna get with the 5th overall pick, positionally speaking. But I agree with you. I would not be surprised, and I think Preds fans need to be prepared for the fact that Nashville has been very open about the fact that they want to get a goaltender. There's a pretty interesting goaltender, Joshua Ravensbergen, that may be available in the lower part of the first round. Some people say he could be high 2nd round, but he's really an interesting player. And I think there's a couple defensemen that are going to be in that range that I think are going to be interesting to Nashville. And I would love to see them get a defenseman. Coming up, we're going to tell you more specifically which defenseman Ann wants Barry Trotz to pick. And then we're going to talk about a couple of the other players that some mock drafts have tossed around about Nashville in the lower first round. We'll tell you what we know about those players and if Nashville may package those picks. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with family or friends? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That is exactly where Game Time comes in. It is the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without any stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes that all possible. Game Time makes buying tickets so fast and so simple. And here's a little hint. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch. And they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that's going to take the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Emma, we are talking about the lower first round picks. You mentioned, perhaps a goaltender, perhaps a defenseman. Can I just throw out the defenseman that is the pick of my heart here? Can we please have Blake Fiddler? Please pass the Blake Fiddler.
Of course. That would be a very Nashville pick. though.
Yeah.
I mean, very like keeping it in the family kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I could see it.
Yeah. This is a great pick. I like this pick anyway, but I think this is a great pick, a great storyline pick. He is, of course, the son of Vernon Fiddler, who played for Nashville for 7 seasons. I think he played like 320 some games here in Nashville before kind of floating around. Ended up back in Nashville for the Stanley Cup Finals. So just kind of interesting. Blake was actually born here in Nashville. He is It's interesting. You look at the different projections, different mocks, different rankings, and he could go anywhere from like late teens to some people have him going at like 40. So I think most likely he's going to be in that like low mid 20s range. So he might be available. He is, friends, a ginormous right shot defenseman, 6'4", 209 pounds. Here's what is so interesting. He truly is a little baby sprout. He is 17 years old. He is not going to turn 18 until July 9th. So like a little bonus year of Blake Fiddler there too. He of course played last season in the WHL with the Edmonton Oil Kings. Fun little fact that Luke Prokop played for a little while with Edmonton Oil Kings. Last season, 64 games played, 10 goals, 33 points. He had the most points for a defenseman on the Edmonton Oil Kings. Look, we can talk stats. We can talk about size. We can talk about how he uses his size. We can talk about his nice shot. He's pretty mobile for being a ginormous tree on skates. But here's why I want him. Because he was born in Nashville and his dad played for the Predators. So look, there's a lot of great reasons statistically. There's a lot of great reasons skill set wise. There's a lot of great reasons kind of prototypical defenseman wise why Blake Fiddler is going to be a good pick for somebody. I just think it should be Nashville. Just give me a little Fiddler.
Yeah, I would say, I think again it would be very, very Predators of them to make that pick. But what I will say is that, I think in this particular case, it wouldn't only be just like a feel good pick. It actually
Correct.
would be, filling an organizational need. So I wouldn't be mad if it happened. But yeah, like if they get to a point where it's looking like, he's still going to be available, maybe even in the second round, then maybe you roll the dice. I don't know. But I think that, I wouldn't be unhappy with that pick at all because they, like I said, they need a defenseman.
They do need defensemen. And I agree with you, whether it is Fiddler or somebody else, they've got to come away from this draft Friday and Saturday night with some heft and some strong potential in the defensive pipeline. That's something that they kind of really need to replenish. You had mentioned a goaltender. What do you like about Joshua Ravensbergen?
I mostly like the timeline that he comes with because I think it is much more in line with that of UC Saros and or Eustace Onninen, if that's the tandem you're rolling with now. If you're Nashville, I think Askarov, dang it, whatever the goaltender formerly known as Askarov was, his timeline just didn't line up with UC Saros. It was they overlapped a little too much. So I think that it just wasn't a good fit for the system, for not the system, but the development pipeline. Because if they were committing to Saros as their guy, which they have, and I still think that's the right decision, you need someone with a little bit more runway in front of him. And I feel like Ravensburgen fits that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the timeline is a lot smoother. Here's what I love. He is the walrus in net on the Progressive commercial. This kid is 6'5", 192 pounds. As a goaltender.
In other words, not UC Saros sized.
He is the full size candy bar on Halloween. That is what he is. I do hope that if the Nashville Predators do select him in the first round, I do hope that Predators fans don't have that knee jerk Yaroslav Askarov PTSD reaction of we're wasting a pick in the first round on a goaltender, because I agree with you. There is a timeline difference, and you have to be mindful of your goaltending timeline from Saros to Ananen to whomever.
Well, and you also wouldn't be, in theory, you wouldn't be picking a goalie early in the first round. This would be a later first round pick. I do not think they should take Joshua Ravensbergen at number 5.
Oh, dear heavens. We riot at dawn.
Yeah. But no, I think a later first round pick with, a goalie that is very promising and whose timeline fits the organization, an organization that is known for developing and producing high quality goaltenders. I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't be mad about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that. A couple other names that some mock drafts have thrown out towards the end of the first round for Nashville with those picks. Logan Hensler, he's a right shot defenseman. That's another defenseman that may be available. Malcolm Spence, he's a winger, played for the Erie Otters. This Northwestern Pennsylvania girl was like, hey. So he's an interesting winger option. He's going to the University of Michigan. And as a Penn State person, I was like, well, whatever, dude. But we won't hold it against him. So there are some good options with those later first round picks that I think Nashville Predators fans can be excited about. But Emma, all of the chatter, I saw where they're talking about teams that have multiple picks in the first round. They're all looking at ways to package them. Do you think the Predators are going to come away tonight with 3 new players? Give me a percentage of whether you think Barry Trotz is going to combine that. What's it going to take for Barry Trotz to give up the 23rd and 26th pick for something? How likely is that even?
I wouldn't say it's very likely. Yeah. I think that I really don't know. Because, I mean, like, if it was to package 2 later picks and move up to get a higher pick, maybe. But what team that's picking higher would want to do that? That's kind of where I'm at with it. So, I'm like, I don't really know. But I think that, again, he's taking the phone calls. He's answering the phone. I think that any type of trade of those picks has to come with roster players in return.
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
And not like 35-year-old roster players. I mean, like, younger, young with a lot of runway ahead of them, but still have NHL experience and can contribute right now. Because Barry Trotz has talked about wanting to sort of bridge the gap. Well, that's how you do that. And so I think that that's really the only way I could see it happening. But again, I don't know. Like,
the pickings on that are slim. I mean, the reality is teams who have a young player with NHL experience, but plenty, still some room to grow to their ceiling, they're not looking really to trade them.
Well, the ones who are, I mean, you look, if Minnesota calls and says we'll give you Marco Rossi for the 2 late picks, sure, that's absolutely not happening because they're going to be asking for a lot more than that. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, that's the kind of player I'm talking about when I say that that's who, like Barry Trotz should be looking for. I mean, other players like JJ Peterka was one of those players, and he has now been traded to another
Utah.
Team.
Oh, I'm telling you, Utah gets scarier every time. Every time I see anything Utah, I'm like, could you just slow your roll?
So I have thoughts about that I will save for when we're talking about our 5th overall predictions, because now I have thoughts.
Okay, well, we're going to get ready and do that. Everybody buckle up. Ann and Emma are doing the thing that we hate to do. We are going to make predictions about that 5th overall pick. We are also going to spread the anxiety. Some of our insiders shared some things that they are worried about looking at the draft this weekend. We'll share their nerves as well. Today's episode's brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you are growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and all of your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. If you share finances with someone, Monarch Money is a great tool for financial collaboration. You can track your shared accounts and stay focused on your shared financial goals. So take control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, Emma, we're getting to the point in the show in the week that, we're going to just say the things. Here is what I want to preface all of this. What are they going to do with the 5th overall pick? We're not guaranteeing anything. And if you have heard somebody say, I know for sure what the Nashville Predators are going to do with the 5th overall pick, friend, they are making like a GM and lying. Because especially in this draft, we don't know how this is going to unfold between 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to do our best. We're going to put our best guess out there. And, on Monday's show, we'll see where we land. But we asked our insiders, what do you have any big fears going into the draft? And I thought there was some interesting feedback. One is, and I think this is interesting, biggest fear is that Trotz is now gun shy after taking a big swing, then crashing and burning last year, and he just stands pat. Do you worry, Emma, that the way last season went after the big free agency swings, do you think that's going to change Barry Trotz, his moves in the draft and in this free agency?
No. First of all, because the draft and free agency, it's two separate things and you have to approach them separately. Number two, in free agency, you really can't take the kinds of swings that you did last year because number one, the free agent market really isn't what it was last year.
Yeah.
And number two, the like you don't have the cap space. I mean, you can't go out and do that again. So I don't know. I think when it comes to the draft, I'm not concerned. Because again, completely, it's apples and oranges to me. So I think that that's just where I stand on that. But then free agency, I would say, they're going to really, really look at like what the team needs right now. What they need right now, well, they need a lot of things, but what they need right now, they need a defenseman, specifically a right shot defenseman. So if you're hearing all these rumors about, or even in a trade, not just free agency, but trades too, you're hearing, well, JJ Peterka's gone. Well, Marco Rossi might go somewhere else. Well, whatever, the younger players. If I'm Nashville, I'm focusing heavily on the defense in free agency and trades. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were kicking the tires on like an Aaron Ekblad, for example. Yeah. I mean, that's where I think their big swing would be. Defensively, I wouldn't be worried that they're going to go add all these offensive pieces that just flop again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Barry Trotz, even though last season did not go well, and Barry Trotz is not pretending that it did, I think he still believes that those moves from last offseason can be impact players this season. That's a podcast for another day, and we'll tackle that another day. Here's another one of the fears from our insiders. No goalie at 5. That's it. That's the tweet. So they're not going to take a goalie at 5. They're not going to take a goalie at 5. A couple other people talked about Roger McQueen and being nervous about the Predators taking a player who has had a significant back injury. He had a fracture. He had a muscle issue as well. At the combine, he felt 100%. They've met with doctors, but I can understand how people are still a little bit hesitant on that. So I think that is something that we'll have to see what they do with. And another fear is not drafting a center at 5. I feel that one. Please. Which gets us into making predictions. Emma and my favorite thing. Not really at all. We hate this. But so we're gonna warm up. Emma, we're just gonna do rapid fire questions. We're just gonna warm up this way. Question number 1, Emma, will Nashville move up or down or pick at 5?
Pick at 5.
I agree. They'll pick at 5. Here's one just for fun. Will the San Jose Sharks take Misa or Frondell?
Misa.
I think so too. I don't know this Frondell stuff. I feel like it's a little bit of pot stir. JD Young might die if they take Frondell.
I mean, if that's when you get to, like, if Michael Misa's on the board, if he's still there, you take Michael Misa. Like,
yeah,
doesn't seem that hard, but
right. Okay,
I think Frondell's going to go to Chicago. They really like him.
They like him. Yeah. If Porter Martone is available at 5, do the Predators take Martone or do they take a center? What's your best guess?
So here is where my aforementioned thoughts come in, because I think, per our conversation yesterday, I would think that they would still take the center if that center was James Hagens. Now I'm less sure because, and this is, I'm just falling into this trap of like, what does it all mean? And I'm like, it could mean absolutely nothing. But now that Utah has traded for JJ Peterka and they've got a really strong winger, a young winger for, their second line, because presumably I can talk. You have, you got Logan Cooley up front, and then you have Clayton Keller and Dylan Gunther. And then your second line center right now is Barrett Hayton. Like, solid. But I mean, if your top 2 centers are Logan Cooley, and if you have the opportunity to get James Hagens, now that you already have JJ Peterka, not saying that you don't need a Porter Martone if you're Utah. I mean, who doesn't need a Porter Martone?
Yeah.
But that makes me think even more so, Utah's definitely taking a center. And so if Hagens is there, I fear they may take him.
Yeah.
At which point, if the remaining options are Porter Martone, Caleb Desnoyers, and Roger McQueen, Brady Martin, the etc.
The chunk. Yeah.
I think they take Martone.
I think if they take Martone, I agree with you. And I do think what Utah did is going to maybe weigh in what they do tonight. Here is my thing about Porter Martone. It's very hard to pass up a player like that. But if you were going to draft Porter Martone, I am going to need you to Marco Rossi this thing. I'm going to need you to get, and it may not necessarily have to be him, but you have to go out and you have to get a center if you take Porter Martone. And look, it would be very hard to be disappointed with Porter Martone. But I think the Predators, we have talked so long, and it is such a hitch in the giddy up for fans that there is no center depth. Barry Trotz real quick is going to need to address the center issue if they do that. I think New York's going to take Schaefer. I really think that the Sharks are going to take Misa. I think Chicago is going to take Frondell. Utah, I think it's going to be Martone or Hagens. And I think Nashville will pick whichever of those 2 is available. Those are our best predictions. We're going to go have a lay down and a drink because we hate doing this. And here's the thing. This draft, all drafts are smoke and mirrors. This draft is just next level because of the way that the picks have fallen and the talent is there. So we're going to see what Nashville does. Of course, the draft kicks off 6 p.m. Central Time tonight. We will have coverage of the pick on social media. Of course, we will be back to talk about the pick. We will have a reaction video up to talk about the pick as well later on tonight. We will get a chance to talk to whomever the Predators draft in the first round. So we'll bring you some inside information about those players as well. Emma, it is time. It is going to happen. It is almost finished. Before we log off on this last draft prediction episode, let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan. You can find my work at the Hockey News, and you can find me conveniently locked in a dark room on Friday night, where I will not be able to check my phone because I will be working at my other job. So I will be just as surprised as the rest of you when I learn who the Predators have taken at number 5 or what has happened. So I'm looking forward to that. This being my first draft in a long time that I am not doing any live reporting. So have to say thank you to Anne for taking one for the team there. She'll be here doing the clip station for Locked On. So make sure you all tune in.
Yeah. You can find my work online with Penalty Box Radio. Follow me at social media at ANK_Mama on Ice. I really tried to get Emma to hire me to be her water boy for that class because I really I don't know what's going to happen and it's going to be crazy. But friends, I'm going to be covering the draft. So stick around. Locked On Predators will have all the information over the weekend, and we will be back Monday talking about everything that went down and looking ahead, friends, to development camp. So make sure you tune in then. Enjoy the 2025 NHL Draft weekend. We'll be back here on Monday. We'll see you then.